betrayal, lies, and a heartbreaking truth that shocked the nation. Gannon Stauch was born on September 29th, 2008. He was described as a joyful and energetic child who loved sports and had a good sense of humor. On January 27th of 2020, 11-year-old Gannon Stauch left his Colorado home to play with a friend, but he never came back. As the evening wore on and Gannon remained missing, his stepmother, Letitia Stauch, called 911. She told the dispatcher, "My son was supposed to be home at 6, and it's almost 7. He was last seen around 3:30, maybe. This has never happened before." Letitia claimed she had checked with neighbors and even mentioned that her daughter Harley had gone to the park to look for him, but there was no sign of Gannon. When asked a simple but critical question, who was the last person to see him, her response was hesitant and unsettling. She was like, I guess me. Which is like, I don't know, that was weird. Letitia Stauch, who was 36 at the time, was married to Gannon's biological father, Albert Stauch. Even from early on, investigators began to question her story. They didn't believe she had gone to any neighbors to look for Gannon, despite her claims, and that was just the beginning of a web of lies she spun throughout the investigation. She couldn't name a single house she had supposedly visited. She couldn't name any of Gannon's friends he might have been with, and she didn't even know the names of Gannon's friends' parents. So you're telling me you don't know anybody? You went to all these neighbors' houses, but you don't know? You don't know where they are, who they are, what, Just hours after Gannon was reported missing, police arrived at the Stauch residence to talk with Letitia, her daughter Harley, and Gannon's younger sister Lena. Albert, Gannon's father, was deployed with the National Guard and was out of state from January 25th to January 28th of 2020, leaving Letitia alone with the children during these days. When officers spoke with Letitia, something felt off. She wasn't panicking, she wasn't emotional about it. Instead, she just casually recounted how Gannon's dad had said he could go play with a friend and that he needed to come home by 6 for dinner. She said when 6 came and he didn't return home, she was like, okay, let me go check with the neighbors. So she started checking with the neighbors, realized he wasn't there, and she was like, I just don't know where he went. He's missing. He's gone, basically. When asked if she had contacted any of Gannon's friends' parents, Letitia deflected, saying Albert had been calling everybody back where he was in Oklahoma. Albert was literally desperately trying to track down his son from hundreds of miles away, calling everyone he could think of, but no one had seen Gannon. At this point, some began to wonder, did Gannon run away? What happened to him? Where did he go? This is just so unlike him. He would never do this. With Gannon still missing, a public tip line was set up, and almost immediately, investigators were flooded with hundreds of leads from calls and emails. Among them were 2 shocking messages. They were ransom notes sent via email demanding money in exchange for Gannon's safe return. Investigators had taken these really seriously and began trying to trace the IP addresses. One email came from a foreign-based account that was accessible by multiple users. Despite their efforts, authorities could not track down who actually sent these messages. In the end, they believed the ransom notes were fraudulent and they were just cruel attempts to exploit a grieving family for money. The next morning, Gannon's father, Albert, returned home from his National Guard training. Together, he and Letitia met with detectives and just in case, like, I'll just, like, put this out there just so you know, but, like, I don't really know if it's gonna hold of any value. Then, the day after Gannon had vanished, Letitia contacted investigators and said she needed to speak with them privately. She explained she couldn't talk freely with Albert in the room, so she arranged to meet detectives alone at the police station. They asked her to walk them through the events in detail starting from Sunday into Monday. Letitia started telling them a bizarre story. She claimed that on Sunday, the day prior to Gannon going missing, Gannon had accidentally set a fire with a candle. According to her, the smoke alarm began blaring fire, fire, fire. So she like ran downstairs to get him. She's like, oh my god. She saw like the smoke rising from the basement too, she said. So she immediately ran down there and she found that the floor in the sofa area was on fire. She said she smothered the fire with blankets that were near. Like there was like tons of like blankets and stuff, so she just took those and like, you know, let the fire out with them. And she wanted to make sure that the mess was clean before Albert had came home because, as she put it, he freaks out about every little thing. And she was like, well, that's really where Sunday ended. Like, we went to sleep and we were gonna figure out the carpet later on, but like, that was it. That was Sunday. Now, during this interview, Letitia brought a notebook, which is like super highly unusual. She continuously referred to these like handwritten notes while talking to detectives. Investigators immediately found this really odd. It's super rare and basically unheard of for someone involved in a missing child case to come in with pre-written notes. She was like, actually, let me get my facts straight. Let me remember actually what my facts are. They're in my notebook. Let me go get my notebook to figure it out. It just felt staged. It felt calculated. It was just weird. They were beginning to suspect that Letitia wasn't just hiding something. She may be the one responsible. Also, guys, I have this Jolly Rancher, and I was thinking of having like hard candy in my mouth while telling the story. Let me know if you guys like it when I do this down below, because I don't really know. I feel like it would kind of be fun. So, let's do it. This Jolly Rancher is watermelon. Hopefully it's not too loud. Oh my gosh, my mouth just started salivating. Hopefully I don't start spitting. That's a problem I have. I don't know. I don't know why. But when I have like hard candy, it's like just spit starts flying. That may just be a me thing. And not in a weird way, like just like accidents or I don't know. Anyways, according to what reporters pieced together from Letitia's ever-changing story, Gannon had been downstairs on his Nintendo, possibly when he wasn't supposed to be. So when Letitia had came down, Gannon panicked and accidentally knocked the candle over, which led to that small fire and damage to the carpet. By Monday, Letitia said she needed to fix the carpet. So now, she's now describing Monday to investigators. So this is her recount of what happened on Monday. So by Monday, Letitia said she needed to fix the carpet and also figure out if Gannon needed burn cream. Living in a newly built neighborhood, she went downstairs to the basement and she opened the storage closet, and the construction worker, Eduardo, was inside. He was wearing gloves and got a hold of the gun that they had in the house. She said she was so terrified, and as she's telling this in the interview, she's crying, like she's almost like bawling, like she's really distraught about it. Letitia claimed this man attacked her, knocked her down, beat her, and tried to sexually assault her. She sobbed to investigators, "It's all my fault. I gave him the code. I never should have." She went on to say she blacked out during the attack and didn't know what happened next. So basically what had happened was, also too, while he was holding her at gunpoint, Lena, Gannon's sister, came home from school. So Eduardo, even though he held her, it was holding her at gunpoint, he allowed Letitia to go upstairs, say hi to Lena, and Letitia was able to tell Lena to go outside and go and ride her bike. She's probably like, "Hey honey, how are you? Go outside and ride your bike, okay? And I'm just gonna go back downstairs." So he let her go back, or she let Lena go outside and ride her bike, right? And Letitia went back to the basement where Eduardo was, that's when he had started sexually assaulting her. This was when she believed she had hit her head, and that's kind of how she started blacking out, but no injuries were noted by the detectives, so just so you know. Now, during her getting sexually assaulted, Gannon had tried to help Letitia, so he jumped on Eduardo's back, but Eduardo, he must be the whole carry, he still was able to throw Gannon off and across the room. He threw him across the room, and so she says Eduardo was able to finish. Now, whatever that means, I don't know. He finished and held the gun now to Gannon and demanded a suitcase. I think maybe they gave him the suitcase. I'm not really sure, but all I know is he requested a suitcase. Eduardo sexually assaulted Letitia again. She hit her head again and blacked out again. Letitia was trying to fight him off, but she just wasn't successful. So that was the Monday recount, right? Now, this was a story that truly stunned investigators, not because it seemed true, but because of how outlandish, detailed, and implausible it was. With every interview, Letitia's timeline and details shifted. What was once a simple case of a missing child was now becoming a maze of lies, misdirection, and increasingly disturbing claims. They felt that if this situation had actually happened, any reasonable person would have immediately called 911 and reported this. They're like, so you're telling me a day later that this is actually what actually happened? Okay. Now, investigators gave her the benefit of the doubt. They're like, maybe she's telling the truth. So they did try to corroborate her story. They ended up reviewing neighborhood footage, I think from security systems. They did not see any Hispanic man entering Letitia's home. They did observe Lena coming home from the school bus, going into the house, and then kind of going outside to go ride her bike. So they were like, okay, that's true. But this Hispanic man is nowhere to be found. During investigation, Letitia had claimed that she was being sexually assaulted in the basement, right? Around 2:30 to 3:30 p.m. But during this time, the back door of her house was opened and closed 10 times on the main level. she was actually being assaulted in the basement. It would be impossible to have that door like being open and closed. Therefore, they believed her statements were false. Now, they got this information from the security system of the house. They had like ADT, I believe it's called. So I think it shows like what doors are opened and movements and stuff like that. But it's not like the Ring camera where it shows things. It's just like motions, I believe, and openings of things. So now, within a day or so, the story went from initially Gannon going to a friend's house to now this, like completely different, so different of a story. Investigators then needed to get evidence based off Letitia's story. The investigators said that it hadn't been too long for her to get forensic evidence of the assault, and she wanted to make sure that this was something Letitia was willing to do. Letitia's like, oh, definitely, I would do anything for you to figure out who Eduardo is. The investigator's like, okay, so we'd like to take you to the hospital to get the exam. And she literally cuts her off before she can even like finish that sentence. And Letitia's like, no, I would totally do that, but I really just want to get some food and take a minute. I can drive myself to the hospital. She's basically like, she was like, can I go home? She's like, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, my lips are really chapped, like I want to dip, like I'm good. The investigator's like, okay, hold on, can you give me a couple more minutes here? She's like, Letitia's like, well, I really need to maintain my mental health in this situation. The investigator again is like, okay, well, it's better to get the forensic exam done prior to you showering and cleaning all up. And she's like, no, I'm not going over there not cleaned. I'm just not gonna do that. It's disgusting. I'm not doing that. Letitia though was like, I will go, but I'm not going right now. I will, but once I'm cleaned and showered. The investigator's like, you do realize that that's how we gather evidence, right? You can't just go shower. Like, we need the evidence. Letitia's like, well, then I'm driving myself there. Letitia ended up getting transported over to the hospital, and she refused to get the sexual assault exam done. She didn't get it done. During the investigator interview process as well, Letitia started saying that she was having a panic attack. She was like, I can't breathe, and she wanted to keep the door open. They're like, okay, well, if you're saying you have chest pains, like, we're gonna need to call the ambulance then. She's like, well, I'm claustrophobic, so yeah, I'm having chest pains right now. So they're like, alright, well, we're gonna have to call the ambulance then. They call the ambulance, and they do all those tests and stuff, and literally they find out she's perfectly fine. So they're like, okay, well, then this just seems like another ploy to try and leave this interview. Like, what the heck? At one point, Letitia ends up speaking with a local news outlet, and she wanted to clear up the rumors she heard circling around the community about her. She's like, I need to go on the news outlet. She explained that the community needed to have faith and work together and stop making false accusations about how Letitia had disappeared from the community. She's like, stop saying that I did that. Like, that's not true. She also explained that she's been helping raise Gannon for the last 2 years because his own mother didn't want to, and she would never hurt him. She's not happy at all with these theories that Gannon is dead because he isn't, and they're going to find him. Like, she's saying all this stuff, right? Now, according to those who knew Gannon, he was often described as a mama's boy. He was deeply attached to his biological mother. Some speculated that this close bond may have sparked jealousy in Letitia Stauch. Now, during that interview with a local news outlet, Letitia had made a striking shift in how she was referring to Gannon. Initially, she was speaking about him in the present tense, as if he was gonna come home. this for me. This inconsistency immediately raised red flags for investigators and kind of shifted the direction of this case as well. Even Gannon's father, Albert Stauch, began to question Letitia's behavior. In a recorded phone call between the two of them, Albert was pressing her for answers, stating that he intended to speak to the last person who had seen Gannon. Letitia responded, "Well, if I was the last person to see him, then I would be the person that has him." Concerned by her responses and behavior, Albert gave investigators full permission to record their phone calls in hopes of uncovering the truth. In one emotional phone call, Letitia asked Albert whether he would still stand by her if he believed what happened to Gannon was an accident. Albert was like, absolutely. He's like going along with it because he wants Letitia to like say certain things on the phone so that the police can catch it, right? So he's like, absolutely, that's fine. I would stand by you. Letitia then began crying and apologizing for telling so many conflicting stories, claiming she simply did not know what to do. She eventually told Albert a new version of events, saying that they had gone to get a bicycle for Albert and she was letting Gannon kind of test ride the bike. A man was helping because the bike was too big. Gannon had fallen off and was seriously injured. He was bleeding from his arms, his knees, and his head. During investigation, there was a piece of wood with blood on it found in a remote area in southern Douglas County, ways away from the house, and this was a huge part of the case. Letitia had to explain why Gannon's DNA would be found on that board. So what they had learned from the phone calls was the amount of lying she was willing to do to try to get investigation deflected off of her. But also she was giving them like little clues throughout where she would actually include small pieces of truth. But the pieces of truth were always explained as to how they were someone else's fault. Like they were never Letitia's fault. Oh, no. They're always somebody else. Now, during this bike situation, right, she didn't have her phone to call 911. And this guy was supposed to be taking Gannon back to go call 911. Albert's like, so this Craigslist guy, Quincy Brown or whatever, was taking Gannon to 911. And she's like, yeah, I swear Quincy's real. Now, there were many different names that Letitia would use for this guy. You know how before it was like this guy helping with the bicycle, like this guy had many different names. It was Eduardo, Uncle Mike, and Quincy Brown. Like, she was not sticking to one name. She had many of names for this guy. Albert is like, well, Letitia, I'm trying to get the truth here. And she's screaming like, I'm telling you, he hurt Gannon. I was tied. Albert's like, okay, well, who did it? He's like, who? Who did it? Who has him? Who hurt him? Who tied you up? And she's like, they're gonna kill me. Like, she's crying. She's like, they're gonna kill me. And he's like, who is they? Who is they? She's like, well, he told me his name was Eduardo, but it's not. It's Quincy Brown. She's like, he's coming after me because I know who he is. Albert's like, so Quincy Brown is the guy holding Gannon for money. And for 3 weeks now, you've known who's had my son, and you didn't tell me. Now, prior to Gannon going missing, Letitia and Albert's relationship was deteriorating and going downhill. Letitia, throughout the whole process, was trying to have Albert support her and be on her side, and she felt like Gannon would like kind of be the glue for this. Neither Albert or investigators are believing what Letitia is saying about Gannon's disappearance. Like, they're just not buying any of this. Investigators get Letitia and they're like, so you know where an 11-year-old is, and I'm telling you, we can go and find him, and you're not gonna give us this guy's location. By mid-February of 2020, the search for Gannon Stauch was still ongoing, amid mounting pressure and increasing suspicion. Letitia Letitia Stauch spoke with Albert again, this time offering yet another version of events. You guessed it, another story. Now in this new story, Letitia claimed that she and Gannon were being followed. She said they encountered a pregnant woman who asked for help, and Letitia agreed to give this lady a ride. However, once the woman got into the car, Letitia claimed she realized the woman was not pregnant. The woman allegedly forced Letitia to go to Petco, make her look around, and drop this lady off. According to Letitia, she had unintentionally become involved with individuals who were laundering money. She claimed they wanted her to deliver paper to various Mexican restaurants and pick up packages in return. Letitia said she refused to participate, describing the situation as a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Albert, increasingly skeptical, challenged her on the credibility of her account. He pointed out the pattern of ever-changing stories, first blaming a man named Quincy Brown, and now introducing a woman with cash allegedly hidden in her stomach. Because that's what she was saying, was there was cash in her stomach, that's why she appeared pregnant. He told her plainly, I do not believe this. He's like, it sounds like you're just telling me stories to try to get me to feel better. Letitia insisted she was innocent, repeatedly stating, I didn't do it. She's like, I didn't do it, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it here before, girl. We heard it in your first story. Now we're on your third or fourth or fifth story at this point. What the heck? Now, these multiple different stories will recap the multiple different stories, okay? So we got, one, he went to a friend's house, right? And then we got number 2, or another one. There's probably, honestly, knowing Letitia, there was probably 50 of these, but here's the main ones. So the first one that we know about, then it was she was sexually assaulted by Quincy, and he abducted Gannon. She knew Quincy's identity because his ID had fallen out of his pocket. She sent actually a picture of Quincy Brown to Albert, and this picture mirrored online images of Quincy Brown, who was listed as a most wanted suspect. So that was another story. Another one is Quincy had followed her from Petco, and at some point he was lying in the middle of the road in front of her car. He then jumped into her car and made her take him home, and then he sexually assaulted her. Another story was Letitia and Gannon were near a highway when Gannon was riding a bike and fell off. He hit his head and then was abducted by Quincy. So these are kind of other stories she was telling as well, along with the other stories I had also told you, along with probably more that I just didn't even get to hear about because there are just so many stories that she made up. The day a news reporter covered this story of the missing boy being Gannon, neighbors contacted the reporter and told her that their camera actually faces the Stauch's house. The neighbor had actually found footage of Gannon getting into the car with Letitia earlier that day of his disappearance. Gannon in the video had been lethargic and looked to be under the influence of some sort of drug. Horrible. I do not like this lady. I don't like this lady, Letitia. Police had also noticed while searching the Stauch's house very fine blood staining on the bedroom walls of Gannon's room, so it was clear that Letitia had done a good Letitia, I don't like you. Letitia had lied to investigators on multiple occasions, which we've been able to tell by the hundreds of stories I've already told that are so confusing, because it's like, what, yeah, I was also confused. I'm like, what? Yeah, she lied to investigators on multiple occasions. She had unexplained abnormal behavior, such as obtaining a rental car, disconnecting her phone for extended periods of time, like off like the network towers or whatever, so like it couldn't be traced, her phone. That's disconnecting like that. False reporting of sexual assault, abnormal patterns of travel, and even leaving Colorado. So these actions, along with other things, allowed for the warrant to be placed for her arrest. Just over a month after Letitia had reported Gannon missing, she was arrested while visiting family in South Carolina. Now the FBI has taken over, and the FBI started to interview Letitia. The agent tells Letitia that they need to know the real story, as there are many different stories she was telling Albert during the phone calls. Letitia's like, well, I knew you guys were listening to those. I was telling him those stories because I was hurt. He wasn't trying to work with me, and so I purposely was giving those stories. Like, what? You're trying to manipulate your husband in a moment of like literal, like what? The agent is like, well, now I don't think you intended to hurt Gannon at all, but something bad happened in his room. She's like, I didn't do it. He's like, well then, help me find out who did. She's like, did what? He's like, done that to Gannon in his room. She's like, done what to Gannon in his room? She's like, where do you think my involvement is with the blood in Gannon's room? He's like, well, you are the last adult to have seen him, and you have told a bunch of lies. He's like, if you would have told police the first night that Gannon was taken forcibly, everything would have been different. He then pulls out these things that Letitia was searching in her phone. And and she deleted these things that she was searching as well. You want to get ready for what was in her phone. Just wait for some of the things that she deleted off of her search. Ready? Blood is spurting from an arterial, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but arterial bleed. Blood is spurting from an arterial bleed. Direct pressure, not controlling. She's like, after that, she's like, do what? Like, I didn't look that up. Another one. I don't like my stepson. Another one. I don't like my stepson. Should I get a divorce? How to get blood out of the sheets. She was even searching full face plastic surgery, face transplants, face disguises, search efforts for Gannon Stauch, find people who want to go to jail. What does a dead body look like after a month? How do police tell whose body has been found? And literally, that's not even the half of it. Like, I do not like Letitia. I do not like you, Letitia. I will say that 100 times in this video. I do not like you, Letitia. Okay, yeah, so, yeah. Investigators then found a video of the night of the candle fire actually taken by Letitia that showed into the relationship of Gannon and Letitia. Letitia is saying, Gannon, I promise it's the last time I'm gonna ask you. I'm just freaked out, okay? Are you sure you didn't do it on purpose? Gannon is literally crying. He's like, I didn't. Like, it's so sad, right? She goes, okay, you promise. He goes, I did not do it on purpose. She's like, Pinky, promise. He's like, Pinky. He's literally still crying. all this poor kid is worried about is the fact that he has these burns from the fire. Like, how sad is that? Like, oh, it broke my heart. Like, it broke my heart hearing him, like, cry. Like, you could tell he was really upset and, like, oh, it was horrible. Now, a case-changing discovery was found 1,300 miles away while bridge inspectors in Pensacola, Florida, finds this suitcase. Now, remember before how Eduardo had asked or requested a suitcase? And remember how investigators, like, I feel like she's kind of throwing, like, subliminals in here. Come to find out, they find the suitcase, right? They decide to open it to see if anything was in it. And a literal body rolls out. And also what appeared to be a comforter as well. Investigators discover Letitia had rented a van and drove 1,300 miles to Florida with her daughter, Harley, days after Gannon's disappearance. She didn't realize she was being tracked. Like, they got that rental car being tracked. She didn't know. They got hotel records right near the bridge as well. So, like, the investigators got these hotel records also. And authorities believe that Letitia had tossed the suitcase with Gannon dead inside over the bridge in the middle of the night while her daughter Harley slept in one of the nearby hotel rooms. Gannon had suffered from not just stab wounds, but a gunshot injury as well. The bullet that was recovered from Gannon was connected to the gun. It was basically the same bullet that would go to the gun that was found in Letitia's bedroom. Now, this gun was actually Albert's gun, but Letitia obviously had access to this gun. Detectives describe finding the gun really eerie. Like, when they initially found the gun, it was super like bad vibes. There was on the dresser, there was a picture of Gannon, like a school photo of Gannon, and the gun was literally placed, like, say this is gun and this is Gannon's picture. It was placed like facing, like literally facing like this towards Gannon's photo, which is like super, made the police and like investigators feel like, ugh, like they did not like that at all. It was just like, now Gannon was stabbed 17 times. He was hit over the head 4 times and then was shot in the jaw. Gannon was given also hydrocodone, so he was poisoned as well, which is probably what I'm thinking is why that video was showing him kind of being lethargic and stuff. It was she probably had poisoned him with this before she killed him. Now, as a kind of a recap, right, on the Monday of January 27th, Gannon had stayed home from school due to a stomach ache that started Sunday night. Letitia had called out of work and stayed home with Gannon. Letitia then had taken photos of Gannon sleeping in his bed that morning. Weird thing to do. She took a picture of him sleeping. Now, Gannon in that picture was sleeping next to his Nintendo Switch. Based on evidence recovered from the Stauch home, Gannon's remains were brought through the house into the garage and likely loaded into the back of Letitia's car. After cleaning the scene, Letitia dumped Gannon's remains on January 28th of 2020. Still to this day, they did not find the Nintendo Switch, but they did find Google searches from Letitia's phone of "Can Nintendo find my Switch?" So investigators believe she probably got rid of it just in case it could track a location. Investigators were able to confirm, based on video surveillance and purchase receipts, that Letitia did go to Petco. That was true, she did. But Gannon was not visible in any of the surveillance footage. Letitia had texted Harley that day of Gannon's disappearance, January 27th, for carpet cleaner, trash bags, and baking soda at around like 5 p.m. And these items were likely used to clean the murder scene. In the 24 to 48 hours of Gannon's disappearance, means Letitia rents a vehicle. She turns off her phone. She washed her car immediately prior to coming in for an interview. She evaded law enforcement's attempts to conduct a more in-depth interview and did not participate in the search for Ganon. On Tuesday, January 28th, Letitia told Harley to pull her car into the garage. Investigators had asked Letitia for Ganon's toothbrush to also recover DNA, and then Letitia searched on her browser. Once again, this girl's Googling everything. They are asking for her son's toothbrush, but said nothing is wrong. Letitia tells Albert that Ganon had been burned by a candle to the point his skin bubbled, and that he peeled the burns off and wiped blood on his bedroom wall. So she's trying to paint the picture that the blood from the wall actually came from this burn, right? Albert hadn't even asked about the blood on the walls during that call. He did not ask about that at all. So her providing that information was super suspicious anyways. No one asked. Why are you bringing that up? That's weird. Now, right, that's kind of some backstory, little additional information, etc. Now it's March 2020, and they still have Letitia in custody in South Carolina. Before she can stand trial, she needs to be transported back to Colorado, but they only make it literally halfway when Letitia gets out of her restraints and attacks the agent sitting next to her in the car. She literally gets something and I don't know if she punched her, she literally attacked this lady. She was attempting to try and escape, they believed. Letitia kept now delaying the trial. There were letters to the judge to represent herself. Then there was a changing of her plea. Letitia went through 2 competency hearings and even a 3rd closer to her trial date. Now, competency hearings are legal proceedings used to determine whether a defendant is mentally competent to stand trial. After more than 3 years, in April of 2023, Letitia goes on trial for first-degree murder, tampering with a deceased human body, and tampering with evidence. She answered a plea of not guilty by reason of insanity. They were trying to say that Letitia had multiple personality disorder stemming from abuse and trauma that she had since she was a toddler. Letitia had looked to appear to be crying and putting a tissue to her face like that during the moments of explaining her childhood trauma, but at no point did she cry or look sad at all. And any point when it came to Ganon, nothing. They ended up calling Letitia's daughter Harley to the stand. They asked her if she's seen her mom change personalities into someone she isn't. Harley's like, no. They're like, have you ever seen her being treated for mental illness in your lifetime? She's like, no. Harley said that she had also never questioned leaving with her mom that day. Remember when they traveled 1,300 miles away? Harley never questioned it because it would be considered disrespectful or talking back. And they're like, okay, well, what would happen if you did do that? And Harley was like, well, my mom would backhand me. A doctor did take the stand as well, and a doctor, a psychiatrist, I believe it was, and that lady described that Letitia would reference her other personality named Maria when she would go into a protection mode, and Letitia was saying that Maria is the protector. The doctor, when questioned if Letitia would remember those moments as Maria, the lady said that she believes that there would be a lack of awareness or understanding of that memory during that time that she switched to Maria. Now, another doctor took the stand too, and she also had seen Maria come out during their one-on-one interviews before. This doctor said that Letitia had started randomly speaking Russian, and then she started then when she went back in English, she started speaking in this like different tone of voice, and she was explaining that she needed to protect her home. They were gonna sexually assault someone, they were gonna molest them, kill them, and she had to protect them. She said she fired the gun and didn't know it didn't have a safety, and she's trained to kill. She's like, it's what I do, I kill for a living. She took the gun and fired the gun at someone. They had a cape on, they looked like a dangerous man. She killed the man, did what she was supposed to do. Now this isn't Letitia's confession, right? This is Maria. This is the personality Maria that said all these things. Now, it was left up to the jury to either believe that Letitia has these multiple personalities and didn't know what she was doing and it wasn't Letitia at all, or they were gonna stick to the other side where it's like, here's what's going on, and this is first degree murder, right? After about 8 hours of deliberation, the jury found Letitia guilty with no possibility of parole. Thank you. Oh, yes. That's what you get, Letitia. You horrible step monster. She's a step monster. She's a step monster. I don't like you, Letitia. We gotta throw that one in there too. What do you all think of this case? Crazy, right? Thank you so much to this individual right here. Thank you so much for this amazing case. Shout out to you. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope all of you enjoyed this video. If you have any other suggestions, let me know in the comments below. I would love to look into them. This case was great, so literally shout out to you. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I would love for you to join the Cheechlings family. I would love it. If you want to be a Cheechling, subscribe. Why was I going to say subscribe? Subscribe. I don't know. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Until the next ASMR true crime video, this is Cheech.